White Sox fans, welcome into the Sox On Tap post-game show presented by On Tap Sportsnet. It's Jonnie here alongside Tony Marchese. Unfortunately, discussing another White Sox loss here. Tony, first of all, how you doing this Saturday evening, afternoon?
Jonnie, I'm doing all right, all things considered. It's good to be on a post-game show with you. First one for you and I this season. I know you were riding with Steve yesterday. You guys talked about a loss, and we're going to do the same thing today. But I'm going to crack a beer and we'll get right into it. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm going to have a little iced coffee. I need a little caffeine boost before we get our Blackhawks fix on later this evening. So, cheers. Wish I had a little Bailey's in that, and I was a little oversight on my part. Didn't pour that in there beforehand, but we trudge on here at Sox on Tap. So before we get started, dive into this game, the 6-4 White Sox lost to the Astros. Make sure you go and subscribe to On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube so you don't miss any live shows. Also, all of our great shorts and video clips that come out from these episodes and any Chicago sports team that you like to follow. It's all there on Tap Sportsnet on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed. And then also make sure you're following along with us on social media at Sox on Tap and at On Tap Sportsnet. All right, Tony, housekeeping's done. Let's get right into this game here. It was Lucas Giolito on the mound for our White Sox today. Like I said, 6-4 loss is what this one ends up being here. But let's start from the top with Lucas Giolito and a little bit of a rough start in terms of the first couple of innings for Mr. Giolito. Dive in.
Yeah, didn't really like what I saw, especially elevated pitch count by the second inning. I think he finished with 49 pitches. Gets touched up a little bit there. Jonnie was uninspired, to say the least, by my pick for this team's Cy Young of 2023. I know Sean's probably feeling that as well in the second inning, but we've seen Lucas do this before. Gets into a ball game, sort of struggles through the first or second inning, and then sort of settles himself down. All things considered, Jonnie, I think he winds up way better off than what I thought was going to transpire today. How about you?
Right, yeah, especially after you see that start, and even I will say in the first inning too, some of those were just kind of slapped out there, right? Some of those hits. So, you can go and talk about the pitch count, and go and talk about the runs given up, and those need to be taken into account. However, overall, when you go and end up looking at the final line there, 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts there. I like those last 2 numbers there. 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. That's an improvement on especially what we saw last year with him. So overall, at the end of the day, when you look at it in totality, I'm not too upset with Lucas Giolito's start. But once again, we're all about hashtag set the tone on the show, Tony. So maybe if you set the tone a little bit earlier, better, then things transpire a little bit differently later on in the game. Not saying that's his fault for later on, but that's just the way the game got off to a start here.
Yeah, and give him some credit here, and I will as well. I think that he battled today. You're going to have starts where you don't have your best stuff, and I don't think he had his best stuff by any stretch of the imagination, but still was able to get through it. And during his time, this game never got out of hand. So I think that's what's most important.
Yep, most definitely. So Astros race out to that 2-0 lead there. And then the White Sox were able to answer back Yoan Moncada with a little shot over the Crawford boxes, Tony. And I know we've got some things that are going to be, kind of nitpicking points here coming up. But, hey, I wasn't expecting that 0-2 count. Goes the opposite way and takes advantage of that absolute Mickey Mouse ballpark. Me and Steve ripped it a little bit last night for certain aspects. But, hey, this one playing into our favor. So I'm glad we were the first ones to be able to cash in on that this year. I know Sebi's did later. We'll talk about that in a second, but man, it was good to see Yo go op away, especially to kind of change momentum of this game early on.
Yeah, Jonnie, I mean, he's absolutely locked in at the plate right now. And I think that the World Baseball Classic sort of, helped him along the way, playing in a little bit more high intensity games in spring training. Like what I see so far from Yoan, that thing looked effortless to me, Jonnie.
Right.
Just absolutely effortless power. I know it's, could be considered the Mickey Mouse ballpark, but it doesn't matter as long as it gets over the fence. The runs still count. So I liked seeing that. I think that that's sort of setting the tone early on, Jonnie. If you're going to look at an offensive player who did something to, get the White Sox on the board, and it looked surprising. He looked surprised. I think we were all surprised that ball made it over the fence. But hey, I'll take it. I'll take it every day.
So I want to say I deserve just a tiny smidgen of credit for that one, Tony, for Yohan Moncada hitting that ball out, because in my plans today, I was going out meeting up with just a couple of friends at the local bar right by my house, and I had gotten off to just a little bit of a late start, so I didn't set the tone that well either at the beginning of the game. However, I was tuned in on the radio with Len as I was kind of running my last errands before I finally got there. And when I got there, that was one of the first plays I see. I get to the bar, go up, order a Busch Light, crack it open, and Yohan Moncada smacks that ball out to left field. So maybe just a little bit of credit there.
Are you saying that you ordering that beer and cracking it open may have led to the home run, Johnny? Is that
I mean,
what
I
you're
think
trying to take credit
correlation
for?
equals causation. We've all known that. That's a long-standing, rule. So yeah,
Good
I
on
think
you. Good
yeah.
on you.
So, all right, so let's move on to the next one here. And then we got Sebi Zavala. Hey, Sebi getting his first start of the year. Obviously, he has caught the first 2 games, but Sebi drawn into the lineup hitting the 9-hole, and this one was no doubter. He got one. It was a little bit up in the zone, but he unloaded on it, pull shot over those Crawford boxes with no doubter on that one. And that gave the White Sox a lead at the time, Tony. I was feeling good after that, going up 3-2.
I was feeling fantastic here. And I know we had a loss yesterday, but I like the way that the White Sox have stayed in these ball games and continued to battle. For all intents and purposes, we haven't gotten blown out by Houston in any of these games. When Sebi Zavala goes yard for you in the 9-hole, that means your offense is doing spectacularly. For that. From that moment on in the game, I thought that we were going to walk out of here and probably be talking about a White Sox victory. That was just such a huge momentum builder, Johnny. We talk about momentum a lot over on Four Feathers. I felt like we had all of the momentum after Sebi Zavala just absolutely fucking cranked that ball.
Yeah, he absolutely did. So that was a pretty sight to see. Like to see the White Sox just hitting the long ball too. We always talk about ball go far, team go far, all the adages. What the out homer your opponent. Most of the time you win. Unfortunately, not the case. What ended up happening today, but it's a positive trend, and it's also one that we had talked about in terms of this team bouncing back this year. Obviously, a lot of individual players need to, but just as a whole. We need more power. We needed it. We needed more thunder, as opposed to last year when everybody's totals were basically below 20. But if you're starting this early, starting to hit some home runs like this, I feel like these can start to pile up, and we'll start to see some more thunder over the course of the year. So that is at least is a positive takeaway for me going forward here. Unfortunately, Tony, that would not be, we talked about staying competitive and, bouncing back and, kind of punching back against the Astros here. We allowed them to land one back on us in the 4th inning, and this wasn't the make or break, wasn't the end all be all, wasn't say the turning point of the game, I would say, but it just demoralized me a little bit. I don't know how you felt when the Astros were able to respond with Jeremy Pena's RBI double in the 4th.
I wasn't too concerned about it at the time. I thought that the Sox were still going to be able to continue to do what they've done this series, which is get runs across the plate. And, I think in the end, obviously this one does sort of hurt you. I think you were a little bit more spot on, didn't really feel too worried at that juncture, Johnny, if I'm being honest with you, but maybe I should have been.
Just a little tiny sink in the stomach. I think that's what it was for me, Tony. So as we progress in the game, we would get to Lucas Giolito finishing, like I said, 5 innings, and then you go to Jimmy Lambert after that in the bullpen for the White Sox. He's able to pitch, 2/3 scoreless of his, and then Joe Kelly comes in after that, and the Astros would start adding on in the 7th inning. And this is where things kind of spiral out of control. And if you want to talk about turning points, stuff like that, this is where it's at right here. And it's just, I guess I just have to ask. I quote tweeted our episode that we just put out with this. What exactly do relief pitchers do? I just want to know. Did these guys know that they're supposed to come in and get outs? Are we going to chalk it up to put in the wrong situation? Because I know that was a big excuse in past. I'm sorry. You get paid, do a job like that. Come in and fucking get it done. I know I'm putting it very black and white here, but this is just my raw reaction to it.
I mean, I'm sitting here wondering the same thing, man. There is not a guy in this bullpen right now that I really feel comfortable handing the ball with a lead. I don't know about you, but as of this moment, April 1st, there is not a guy in the White Sox bullpen that I really want to go to. You've seen Graveman get touched up. You've seen Aaron Bummer so far. Those are both high leverage guys. Joe Kelly, he's been all right, but I think that there's enough Joe Kelly from last year to sort of leave that sort of taste in your mouth of I'm not really trusting of this guy. You look at Jose Ruiz, Santos, not exactly the best options out there. Jack Dickman, enough said.
Jack Dickman.
Just it's going to continue to bite you. But what do relievers do? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, it's an honest question, right? I think that's where I stand on the matter with that. And you talked about those cast of characters; those were the rest that came in after Lambert. It was Kelly, Ruiz, and then Santos in this one. And I will say, with Joe Kelly, the beginning of his outing, okay. And I will say that I did like the control much better. Last year was an absolute disaster with walks, with hit batsmen, with just not being able to effectively command anything. It was better at the start, but he did leave right with two runners on base. So putting your next guy in a tough position. We had talked about, me and Steve talked about that last night with putting your next guy in a tough position. Well, that's what happened last night. And then it happened, Jack Dickman gives up the big shot, the big kind of rip your heart open moment after that. But it was Kendall Graveman's runners, right, that he was allowing to score there. So it's tough to see this, and it feels like an early trend. I know we're only 3 games in, small sample size. It is what it is, but I just get the feeling that you're not going to be able to trust a whole lot of these guys, because I go back to that list too. And I was just out with the friends that I was talking about earlier when I met up with them, and we went through after and we're like, who do you trust? And Reynaldo Lopez, I think I'd put up there.
It's the one name I haven't mentioned when I went through
That's
entire.
it. And then after that, you're not feeling too great about any of those. You kind of know what you have in Jose Ruiz already. I think we've known that for a couple of years now. And then for Joe Kelly, it's still a lot of prove it. There's still a lot of trust to be earned back there on his part. And as for the other ones, you saw the Kendall Graveman not being able to lock down the bottom of the order in last night's game too. So it's tough. It's tough to do that. And maybe it's overreaction time here at Sox on Tap. But I think I'm a boo every reliever at home games that's not named Reynaldo Lopez or any mention of Liam Hendricks. I know he's siding that with the team right now, but until the performance improves, I think that's the necessary treatment.
Yesterday was a wasted Lance Lynn day. I don't know if I want to consider this a wasted Lucas Giolito day. All things considered, like we said, fairly well, but blowing leads like this is not exactly the trend that you want to see setting in early. Yes, this is the Houston Astros. Yes, it's the first series of the year. So might be slight overreaction. I don't like the trajectory that this is going on at the moment, at least early, because we talk about some of the same things, Johnny. Look at us last year towards the end of the season. You can't win the division in April or May, but you can certainly lose it. So don't want to see that trend continue. I think if you come out of this series 1-3 with both of those games that were sandwiched in the middle here, say we get blown out tomorrow, these 2 games are going to hurt. I thought today was a very winnable ball game. I thought yesterday was a very winnable ball game for the White Sox. I don't like losing winnable ball games, and I feel like we've just done that now twice in a row when this team has proven it could beat the Houston Astros. They did it on opening day. So there's a little bit of a leash that I'm going to give. I don't know about you, but these 2 ones sort of hurt, because this team could easily be 3-0 at this point right now.
I agree.
The Houston Astros, and that's saying something.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I just want to point out this is the Rick Dalton moment where you point at the screen, right? Once upon a time in Hollywood. We tried to do a good job of incorporating our episode titles in here. Tony, thanks for doing that. White Sox drop another winnable game. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. He said it. He said the thing. Okay. That's what this episode here, season 5, episode 3 of Sox on Tap was all about. Final thoughts on this game. Let's wrap it up, get to the finale preview, and get the hell out of here.
Final thoughts on this ball game, Jonnie. I really liked a few things. I think if I had to give a couple of shout outs here, I like Eloy's plate approach that he's been bringing each and every time he's coming up there, working deeper in counts. Same thing with Tim Anderson. I think both of those guys, the plate approach that we saw, it seems a little bit matured, at least early on. This, again, could be very small sample size. I thought Tim Anderson was going to walk again in consecutive games, and in one of those at bats there, that he brought it to a full count. You saw Eloy working deep in counts. That's something that we haven't had, too much experience with as White Sox fans outside of watching Yohan Moncada and Yasmani Grandal. So I like those approaches. I think they're going to, bode well for the White Sox in the future. I like seeing it against playoff teams like the Houston Astros. Andrew Benintendi, I know yesterday, bad route. Today, made a couple of good plays out there in left field on some caroms off the wall. I'm impressed with that. And I'm going to go back to Sebi Zavala and the home run. I think that when you've got guys that are backup reserve players, backup catchers, guys like that showing some power, that's fun for the team. It's engaging. I think that they just really need to clean up this bullpen mess that they've got going on right now. And we can debate all day, and maybe we'll save it for tomorrow. In fact, we should. Some early reactions on Pedro Grifol, but all intents and purposes, this was a winnable ball game. Once again, like I just said, they're doing some of the things that it will take to win ball games. So, final wrap up thought here. There's not much I would change outside of the bullpen from today's ball game.
Right, I'd like some more clutch, come through in the clutch. Be opportunistic. One of my favorite words, Tony. Left 10 on base. I know the Astros did leave 11, but they also did enough to get their guys in when they had a mid-scoring position. Obviously, evidenced by the final score of 6-4. Other than that, I'll go very micro on this. I know I'd been a little bit critical of him on our season prediction show. Oscar Colas, I was impressed with this at bat in the 9th inning. I was just talking to my friends at the bar I was watching the game with, and I'd said, don't try to overdo it. Don't be a hero. You don't need to be get the home run and tie this game up. And, at this point, keep the line moving, do what you need to do. And he did just that. Roped the ball on the ground back up the middle, did enough, kept the ball rolling. Eloy Jimenez eventually able to come up and get a RBI single to add one for the White Sox there. But in Colas's last at bat, I will say that was a nice, just stroke of hitting that I did like from that. So I'll be watching him closely. And once again, I think everybody should lift not lift, but ease the expectations and just let him ease into this whole Major League Baseball thing, because it's quite a whirlwind. So now I'll leave it at that for this one. White Sox drop it 6-4. We'll be back for the series finale on Sunday, which will feature Mike Clevenger for the White Sox. First outing for him. And then on the other side, it will be, who we got on the other side?
Don't have that in front of me at the moment.
Luis Garcia. There we go. Luis Garcia, battle of righties once again here. So the White Sox be able to get to a right-handed pitcher here, Tony.
It'll be interesting, Jonnie. They're a very good team at mashing the lefty. They have been for a while. I know that was sort of not the case at certain points last year, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of lineup Pedro Grifol runs out there. We've seen the very left-handed stacked lineup already once. Do we go back to that? What's the lineup going to look like tomorrow? I can't make any real predictions here, but I can throw out a pick to click for you.
Right, let's do that.
I'm gonna go with Andrew Benintendi.
Okay, Andrew Benintendi. I like that pick. I'm wondering if your guy Gavin Sheets is going to be in the lineup, because that would be one that I would potentially think about picking. If you're going
only guy without a hit on this roster right now.
Right? Yeah. Sure. Interesting. I know he didn't have a great outing on Friday night when he did get his first start of the year. So as for me on pick to click front, I haven't picked him yet. So I'm gonna go with the guy at the top. TA set the tone. I think it's a safe one. safe to assume he'll be back in there. So will be interesting though, because we had always joked about what the White Sox Sunday lineup and how that was always kind of a throwaway in years past and all of that. I don't think that should be the case this early on, but you do also, no day off here before some travel and going back home. So I don't know. We'll see exactly what happens. It'll be interesting. We're all still evaluating here, but until then, we'll just continue the sarcastic fire Griffol every time they lose, right?
Hey, as long as it eventually starts to get under Steve's skin, I think that's all we can continue to do here, Jonnie. Yeah, I mean, just put another one down for NWI Steve and his predictions. I think that's sort of my final thought.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. So, all right, we'll be back here at Sox on Tap Sunday Funday for a little bit more extended show to flesh out some of the topics. And most definitely talking about lineup construction, what we saw, overall observations from this first weekend of play, previewing the opening series. Finally back at home on the South Side. Looking forward to being out there for the home opener. Monday we'll be out in Lot B. So be on the lookout on Tap Sportsnet Black Flag out there. Come and join us, have a beer, and it'll be a good time. But before that, once again, one more game down in Houston on Sunday for the series finale. Tony, that's all I've got. Enjoy our Saturday nights
as well.
Yeah. Until next time, White Sox forever.
White Sox forever.